John Mututho has directed all outlets selling alcohol drinks to submit their licenses to their respective county commissioner by Wednesday. Mututho has also directed all county commissioners and police to close all bars and nightclubs that are operating in residential areas or near learning institutions. According to the NACADA chairman, 60% of all outlets sell fake or adulterated products.
How, where and when you can imbibe your glass or bottle of alcohol is now a strictly regulated matter, at least after the introduction of the Alcohol Drinks Control Act, popularly referred to as the Mututho Law.
Those people who are within 300 meters from the schools, if they are able to erect a wall or a barrier that makes it impossible to be more comfortable and there is no noise, it will be okay for licensing purposes. Alcoholism is a condition. Few
Kenyan politicians became attached to one issue the way John Mututho became attached to alcohol control. For years, his name was almost synonymous with bar crackdowns, early closing hours, anti-drinking campaigns, and national debates about morality, freedom, addiction, and responsibility. Some people hated him passionately, others respected him deeply, but almost everyone knew who he was.
He is known by everybody. By everybody.
And we love
yes,
him.
Even our children, they know him.
We love him so
Yes.
much.
Do you support
Yeah?
banning on selling alcohol?
Yeah?
And the whole campaign.
Yes, you know the campaign for alcohol. It was a beneficiary to parents. So we like him.
And is this important for your children, such a
Yes, very much. Very much. We are very happy about him.
Unlike politicians who focused mainly on roads, electricity, or development projects, Mututho focused heavily on behavioral and social destruction. He believed Kenya's economic growth meant little if families were collapsing under addiction. He repeatedly argued that alcohol abuse was damaging productivity, destroying homes, creating violence, and harming children, and trapping communities in cycles of poverty.
We are saying that alcoholism is a condition. Ugonjwa is a condition.
To his critics, he appeared controlling and unrealistic, like a religious enforcer rather than a politician. Others believed he was exaggerating the problem. Yet one thing became undeniable: he had touched a national nerve.
Shut down a sector of the economy simply because there is a social problem. You need to find ways to solve those social problems.
If we close for a whole weekend, expected loss will be about 25% of your monthly income.
To understand why the Mututho Law emerged, you first need to understand the problem that Kenya was facing at that time. This was not simply about people enjoying drinks after work. Alcohol abuse had become deeply connected to poverty, hopelessness, unemployment, urban stress, broken families, corruption, and social instability. One of the most serious issues at that time was the rise of cheap illegal alcohol. Brews became widespread. These drinks were often produced in unsafe environments with little regulation. Some of them contained dangerous substances, including methanol and industrial chemicals. Periodically, mass poisoning incidents killed dozens of people. Entire communities would wake up to stories of people going blind or dying after consuming toxic alcohol. Illegal brewing continued. Why? Because there was demand. People wanted cheap escape. And where strong demand exists, someone will always supply it. Kenya was also facing serious economic frustration. Youth unemployment remained high. For many people, alcohol became an emotional relief. Bars provided temporary escape from anxiety, from pressure, from failure, from loneliness and hopelessness. This is one of the most misunderstood realities about addiction. People rarely become addicted simply because substances exist. Addiction often grows when emotional pain, stress, trauma, boredom, or hopelessness already exist. Households were now losing most of their income to alcohol. Domestic violence increased, parents neglected responsibilities, children grew up around chaos. In some communities in Kenya, women carried enormous burdens because husbands spent most of their income on alcohol instead of school fees, instead of food, instead of household support. Alcoholism by the 2000s became intergenerational. There was another major issue with alcoholism in Kenya. The issue was how easily minors accessed alcohol. Teenagers could buy alcohol in many areas with little resistance. Drinking became associated with maturity and social acceptance. Some young people now would begin drinking very early, increasing the risk of long-term addiction later. In response to, the Kenyan government introduced stronger alcohol regulations through laws strongly associated with this man, John Mututho. These laws aimed to reduce alcohol abuse through environmental control. Instead of only telling people to drink responsibly, the laws attempted to limit access, to limit exposure, and to limit a normalization of alcohol. Measures included restricting alcohol selling hours, limiting alcohol advertising, preventing sales near schools, cracking down on illicit brews, restricting underage drinking, regulating licensing of bars, and reducing excessive alcohol availability. John Mututho understood something modern addiction science also recognizes: environment shapes behavior. If alcohol is available everywhere, all the time, addiction becomes easier. If bars operate endlessly, binge drinking increases. If children constantly see alcohol advertisement linking drinking to success, confidence, sex appeal, and happiness, alcohol becomes psychologically attractive long before someone takes their first drink. The laws therefore attempted to reduce constant exposure and availability. This approach is sometimes called public health prevention. Instead of focusing only on treating addiction after it destroys life, you try reducing the conditions that help addiction spread. The laws appeared to produce positive results. Some communities reported reductions in excessive drinking. Some workplaces noticed improved productivity. Some families felt relief when bars closed early and drinkers returned home sooner. There were also periods when crackdowns reduced visible illicit brews operations. Even critics admitted at some point the laws forced the country into an important conversation. For once, alcoholism was being discussed seriously rather than normalized completely.
In a situation like this, understand the heat, that people know what we don't know. People know that even in Udaya, where they took a whole truck, somebody who stole that beer ended up dying and drunk and died at the other end. So the public knows what we don't know.
Yes.
So the fact that it is labeled Tusker does not mean it is Tusker. The fact that it is labeled Summit does not mean it is Summit.
So why did the Mututho laws fail, if they did?
First of all, when I was in Parliament, I was robust. I was not operating under any law save for the Mututho laws. Now I'm chairman NACADA. I have to operate under NACADA Act, Cap 1, that's Cap 121B. NACADA Act, the functions of NACADA are spelled out in section 6, A through F. And it is a campaign. It is campaign against alcohol and drug abuse. Campaign. Let me hear of any Kenyan who does not know John Mututho, who does not know alcohol is bad, who does not know drugs are bad. That far I've done 100%.
And yet they still
think I've not done it. Now, when they assessed me last year, and good people, because most of you aspire to go to heaven, let us also be fair to each other. We are assessed on performance against the yardsticks set by your employer. It's called performance contracting. NACADA achieved 110% in terms of advocacy, in terms of campaign. But what Kenyans think of NACADA, they think NACADA is national control, not national campaign. The whole world of difference. In control is we force ourselves now to go and do the control. Because the law that was enacted in Parliament, and parliamentarians are reasoning, and they had a taste of it last weekend. I was smiling all the way. They know how to do the control now. They should have done a law, national control against drug abuse, alcohol and drug abuse. That way then, John Mututho would have a whole group of enforcement officers, just like Askari Kanjo, just like NHIF, just as like Labor, and all these other institutions that have...
Okay, Chairman.
Was John Mututho right? The honest answer is partially yes and partially no. He was right that Kenya had a serious alcohol problem. He was right that addiction destroys families and productivity. He was right that environment influences behavior. He was right that unlimited alcohol availability increases harm. He was also right that underage drinking and illicit brews were national dangers. They still are today. But some critics also had valid concerns. Strict regulations without deeper social reform creates resistance. You cannot regulate pain out of existence. You cannot police hopelessness away. You cannot solve emotional suffering only through closing bars earlier. People need healthier lives to sustain healthier behavior. The Mututho era teaches several important questions. Addiction is never just personal. Society shapes behavior. Culture shapes behavior. Advertising shapes behavior. Economics shapes behavior. Trauma shapes behavior. and prevention usually matters. Waiting until addiction destroys lives is expensive and painful. Importantly, laws alone are not enough. Reduce harm temporarily. But long-term recovery requires deeper human transformation. People like you and me need purpose, connection, opportunity, and meaning. Today, as Kenya struggles with alcohol abuse, drug addiction, betting addiction, depression, and rising social frustrations, some of his warnings sound less extreme than they once did. Perhaps his greatest insight was understanding that addiction is not only about weak individuals, it is also about environments that quietly train people to escape reality instead of building lives they no longer need to escape from. The reality is, still, history may judge John Mututho differently with time.